Louis, we're out here shooting tugboats. Sir.
Oh, sorry. I'm pointing the camera at the wrong boat.
Yeah, you're pointing at the wrong thing. We're shooting that.
It's supposed to be in the water, huh?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I messed up.
What's going on here? Pay attention.
It's white, and that's white.
I know. It's the same thing. What's up, guys? Larry Chen here. Welcome to another episode of Hoonigan Autofocus. Today we're focusing on a beautiful 240Z. My buddy Daniel Song. What's up? How are you?
What's going on, man?
You build all the cool cars. You really do.
I get lucky.
Yeah, I like the builds that you do. They really speak to me. I mean, it's kind of like we're car twins, not really.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, car builders from another mother.
Exactly. So we had a chance to feature your beautiful turbulence gray A90 Supra like that. Yeah. But now I guess you got another one, right? So you actually got rid of your old one, but you're gonna start off with a clean slate and you're gonna build something else amazing.
Exactly. So I figured after all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into that first Supra, it was actually easier to just sell the car as is than to undo some of the mods, right? And so I just got a great opportunity to sell the car, get into a fresh Supra, and really start with a blank slate. So that's what I did. Like literally the day the old Supra left, the same day Longa Toyota dropped off my new Supra.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're not out here to talk about your Supra. No. We're out here to talk about your beautiful 240Z. Everyone loves making fun of me. Everyone loves making fun of me all the time for bringing up my personal 240Z, because honestly, that's kind of what I'm known for. So anytime I see a Z build, it just speaks to me in so many ways. I absolutely love it. So I'm guessing this is a 72?
Yep, it's an early 72. Believe it or not, they actually had some of the Frankenstein 71 parts on the car. And I didn't know that until like we really dissected into the car, and there were actually early 71 parts on the car. And apparently the factory still, whatever parts were remaining, they were just throwing it on early serial numbers on 72 cars. And so that you can tell like where in 72 the car was built.
So tell me the story about this thing. Did it start out life as a rust bucket, or was it pretty good? Or?
You know what, I would probably say that it was probably a good 6 out of 10. It wasn't perfect, but it was well kept for considering the age of the car being 40 years old. It was a 2-owner car. So there was an original owner, and the second owner was a Marine who's owned it for almost 38 years of the car, so a life of the car. He did sort of a light exterior restore. So when I got the car, there was obviously the engine was original, the interior was a little bit original other than like sheepskin like seat covers, but everything else was kind of sort of a little ratty, but at least the exterior looked pretty good. Very minimal rust. And again, in my mindset, I thought, hey, you know what? Start with a cleaner donor car, less headaches to worry about. But considering all the meticulous work that we went through to fix this, I should have started off probably with a rattier car and saved some money on the original donor car.
I don't know. I mean, that's one of the things that a lot of people ask me about. They ask me, hey, should I start with a cleaner car? Should I spend more money? In my eyes, body work is probably the most expensive thing. Absolutely. So potentially you saved yourself some headache for getting a better car.
Absolutely. I think, again, the word, if we're talking about saving headaches, I think absolutely it's true. There was less nightmares when you disassemble the car. There were less surprises. I mean, there were a few, maybe 1 or 2 areas of rust, which are very common among the Z cars. But other than that, there were no real big surprises during the teardown. You know what I mean? So definitely there was no real major heartaches when we took the car apart.
All right, so let's do a little exterior walk around here. The body is so clean. I mean, you guys had to go down to bare metal, or?
Yeah, so we took the car, which again had 1 layer of paint over the original paint. So we media blasted it all the way down to bare metal. We found some areas of slight body work that we, again, like I said, we try to fix as much of it as possible. Some areas of denser Bondo area, we were able to get that out, fix the sheet metal so there's less like body filler needed. So it's again, the car is a lot more straight, it's a lot more clean. Again, like I said, it's I mean, in the sunlight, you can tell that there's no wobbles, there's no dings. So yeah, we took it down to bare metal, and then yeah, we did a fresh coat of paint inside and out too.
So what made you want to build a classic Z car? Is it something that you've always wanted to build? Is it something you grew up around?
No, actually, you know, surprisingly enough, all the cars that I've built were sort of my like more contemporary tuner cars. Honda Civics, obviously Integra Type Rs, S2000s, Acura NSXs, and it was like, it wasn't until like the FRS was done that I thought, you know what, I want to try something different. And again, this was kind of before the boom, before these Japanese vintage cars started to really start to take off. Right around that time, really the only thing that was really popular was probably the old school Skylines. I mean, that was starting to get a little bit of notoriety. The Zs were still not all that popular. The AE86 was obviously popular because I think the drifting community loved the car, but this car wasn't quite there yet. So I said, you know what, I want to dabble in a vintage car. And to me, the Z profile, like to me, my favorite angle of the car is the profile, because it just reminds me of an iconic look of old school race cars, right? Whether it's Jags or Ferraris, I think the Z kind of has that same silhouette. And that's what really captured my heart. It was that profile image of the car. And I said, you know what, I want to build and restore a Z. Obviously, I had no idea what I was getting into, because again, with contemporary cars, you just buy the parts, you pop them on, right? You don't really have any trouble, but you know, I definitely will admit I bit off more than I could chew when I started this project originally.
So this was actually a SEMA car, and it was on the SEMA show floor, right?
Yeah, it wasn't original. So the weird part was this was never intended to be a show car. I bought the car, again, I forget exactly what year I bought it, but I bought it, and it, you know, again, it was pretty decent. We started disassembling the car within a week. We spent about 6 months, again, casually on our own time, prepping and working on the body, and then my friends Vu and Tuan ended up doing the whole paintwork, bodywork. It came back into my personal garage. We started doing some dry assembly, some light assembly of the exterior panels, the window moldings, the chrome and bright work. And then it sat on jack stands for basically about 1.5 years because my son was born. So I had a business that was taking off that same year, and I had a son that was born, and so my time was allocated to my family and my business. And so the car that was freshly painted was literally sitting under a sheet for about 1 year. And it was being neglected, and I thought, wait, this can't happen. And so that's when I enlisted the help of JDM Legends. Now, keep in mind, the project was not only being neglected, but it was at a point where I knew my expertise, or at least my level of skill, just I didn't know what to do after that. You had to rebuild the motor, do all the hard lines, all the hard goods. So that's when I again contacted Eric over at JDM Legends. He was actually coming out for JCCS, and I said, hey, after the show, can you stop by my place? I want to show you a car and see if this might be a candidate that you guys want to work on. And so that same year was when JDM Legends released a Blue Z that they had done, which was an incredible car. And you know, I sat down with another shop, and I won't mention the name, but they were very eager to tell me what they wanted to do. Basically, they really overran the vision of what I had for the car. They wanted to do big motor, turbos. They wanted to do a lot of modern components. And while that's exciting, it wasn't what I wanted to do with this Z. I wanted to do a Fairlady Z tribute car. Obviously, there's elements of Restomod, right? You have the updated brakes, the updated wheels, but for the most part, I wanted it to look like an OE car, you know what I mean? And that was really important to me. And so everything had to be sort of period correct. Again, there are some exceptions on the build. Luckily enough, the way they build their cars is very similar to what I wanted to do. So we were both on the same page about what the outcome should be.
Let's pop the hood. I want to see what's under here.
All right.
I already know that it's a L series motor just from the sound. Wow, this is very, very clean. Really, really good job.
Again, originally we thought, hey, you know what? Let's keep matching numbers motor inside the car, but we opted to go with a L28 series motor for a little bit more increased power. We did the OER carburetors, custom filters made by JDM Legends.
Oh, it's so clean every single place. I look at mine and I look at this, and I just think about mine, and I think about how much work it would take to get it this clean. So did you have a chance to dyno this?
Eric has the dyno. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. I mean, it's not big numbers, but for the car that it is, the driving experience, I mean, again, like I said, I think there's a very natural, visceral feeling.
So who makes all of the body parts?
So all the front air dam and the flares actually come from a company called Morgan Shukai. I think that's how you pronounce it. But anyways, it's a Japanese brand, and again, they're molded off the original parts. So yeah, we went with this brand of parts. Again, they're all fiberglass parts. They were painted to look like kind of like rubber urethane, right? So they're satin black paint.
So these are actually like replicas of the original metal flares.
Exactly.
I guess someone newer getting into it,
Yeah.
you would think that it's something super aftermarket,
Yeah.
but these are actually off OEM.
Yep. And then I think it's just because like the coincidence of our modern day builders who are throwing on riveted fender flares and over flares on all their modern cars. I think again, sometimes we look at this as, oh, this is a modern sort of like style onto an older car, but this is what's available.
I really like the styling. It's simple. You have the twice pipes, right? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
The bumper is super clean. The chrome, all of that is. So you had to redo all of this?
Yeah, so I bought these bumpers because the US bumpers have the additional bumper guards, the vertical bumper guards. We just went with a cleaner, just without the bumper guards, just again, the chrome finish bumpers.
I love that you are one of the few that have a spare tire. I can't believe you got 5 of these wheels. So tell me about these wheels.
So we went with the, again, T37Vs. They're specifically designed for vintage applications and smaller car applications. It kind of gives it sort of a retro look with the classic look of a T37.
You guys really did a good job on the interior. I love these seats so much. Tell me about these seats.
So these are the Brit Historic seats. At the time of the build, these seats were discontinued. And so I was hunting high and low on forums. I saw maybe one seat come up for sale, but not a pair. A mutual friend of mine knew a contact over at Brit Japan, and the owner agreed to pull the molds out of storage and build us a pair. And now apparently, if you want to order them, they're made to order now. So that was really cool. We had the full dash repaired and rewrapped. This isn't like a dash cap, but basically they heat up vinyl sheets and they stretch it over the dash and they can basically rewrap it. So it looks like OEM, and so there's no cracks or anything. So all of this, we went with Speed Hut gauge clusters. We ended up going with the competition wheel and the competition knob.
This wheel looks like the original Z wheel, but it's a little smaller, obviously.
Exactly. So this is the competition wheel, so it's not the wood grain wheel. It's not as big.
Huh. I'll start it up. Let's hear what it sounds like.
Okay.
It just has that sound. Oh, so you move this back?
Yeah.
To get in.
To get in and out.
Right, because this is actually like really form-fitting.
Yeah,
it's like pretty
and the steering
tight.
column doesn't adjust, so then you get pinched between the bolster and the seating column, so you can't exit out of the car. But to be able to slide it back, then it makes it a little bit easier.
This is the thing, like these old seats look amazing.
Yeah.
And you actually don't really notice that it doesn't have a headrest
yeah.
until you actually sit in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking about it, like,
Right.
what happens if you get into an accident? But whatever.
Technical difficulties. Oh, these are fancy.
Airplane style.
Oh yeah, I like these. Here we go. It's crazy because I sit so much higher in this car than my own car, but everything else feels so familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are your seats, the rails, just much lower?
Yeah, well, it's just mounted onto the floor, basically.
Got it.
Yeah. That's what I mean, a time machine, man. This brings me back. This is it right here.
Again, it's that visceral, that like the smell, the sound, the vibration. It's, yeah, even the steering feel, like it's, you can't really describe it, you know what I mean?
It's definitely a old school Z car. The pops, the cracks, everything.
Yeah,
it just brings
there you pop, pop.
Oh, it brings me back, yeah.
And that's without modern day tuning where people are intentionally trying to get those burbles and pops.
Right, right. Like in the A90. Every time you come to a stop, it's like it's just so crazy. The feeling that you get from driving this, it's just, it brings me back. I love it. It's like I'm 21 again, you know? I actually bought my 1970 240Z on my 21st birthday.
That's right.
And took it out for a drive, and I ran out of gas.
Oh no.
That morning. And then when I brought it, you know, to my friends for them to check out, the first thing they were saying was like, wow, I can't believe that back in 1970, all those years ago, something like this existed.
Yeah.
You know, and this, I mean, for this 1972, of course, this is a little bit newer, but everything else is it's the same. And I'm so glad that you kind of updated it. It's like OEM plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's mainly in the areas that you're not going to see, right? Where it doesn't take away from the spirit of the car.
Right.
But again, when it comes to reliability, performance, I mean, those are the areas that we address some of the modern components. Really, the only very visual thing that you can see from the outside of the car might be the wheels, right? That's like the only really obvious thing.
But as you see, like everyone has a Z story. It has such a big place in American car culture, especially us just, you know, we just parked on the side of the road and you know, random people would just kind of stop you and like, hey,
that's
what's up?
the most like bizarre thing.
Yeah.
I've gotten more people to stop and like compliment this build than any of the other cars I've owned, and that includes some of the exotics. It's like, and what's really cool is it's not just a nice car. It's the fact that someone stops and they have a story there's a way that they're related to a Z somewhere, right? You saw the guy that stopped by, he was like, oh, my like brother had one. He had the early 70s one. You know, when I was at DMV, there's like a long line to do the inspections when you first register the car, because this was an out-of-state car, so I had to bring it in, I had to get it registered, and there was a long line. Now the DMV inspector, when he came out, he saw the Z, and he walked over, he's like, is this your car? I go, yeah. He literally inspected, signed the car off, and I didn't have to wait in like a 20-car line, because he loved the Z that much.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's, again, I've never seen as many people either stop to say something nice about the car, or to tell me their personal story and a relationship that they have with the Z. Whether it's like, my dad had one when I was growing up, or my uncle had one. I remember driving one as a teenager. Like, so many stories.
And part of it is because it was an obtainable sports car.
Yeah.
You know, and at the time, for the price and the reliability and the performance, you just couldn't beat it.
Yeah, this was really the first mass market Japanese sports car, really, for the average person, right?
Right. And all these years later, look at us enjoying it. Still on the road.
Yeah.
That sound is so good. I love it. It's intoxicating. Thank you so much for letting me drive your Pride and Joy. This, it brings me back. It's kind of cool. It's like a feeling that I got from when I first got my Z, but like this is all new. Everything new, everything updated, everything clean, not falling apart. It's cool to see, you know, like it just puts a smile on my face. And you've built so many crazy cars. You know, you could build a car with 500, 600, 700 horsepower. But when you build something like this, it just has that story, it has that nostalgia, and people just want to talk to you about it. You know, people love it, and it's really cool. I love it. Thank you so much.
This is definitely the most intimate build for sure. For sure.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.